All right, anything else that, Tim, you want to know about in terms of the profession itself? We'll go back to our slide.
Um,
I have a recommendation, if I may add. So Tammy, being that you've been in like the medical field for a long time, I would say if you still have connections to those people that you worked with, those supervisors that you're with in the hospital, definitely use some of those people as your recommendations for getting into the program. So there's 3 different ones. McKenna, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's one based on just like your overall personality. There's one based on work ethic. I can't remember what the other one is off the top of my head, but there's 3 different ones. So it kind of gives you a guideline of they want to see different things out of you. But I think definitely if you can get in touch with those people or have somebody fill one of those out, I think that's going to help you a lot, just because that's somebody that knows your work in the medical field, whether it's being a CNA or being an x-ray tech, as you plan on being. I just think that that's going to show everyone who's looking at the applications that, you know, that you have what it takes to be in the medical field and some of your strengths in that realm.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Let me bring up the point of more of a lifestyle while you're in the program. McKenna and Jen, are you both working right now while you're going through the program? And how does that work in terms of your studies and trying to balance that?
Are you going to start, Jenna, or do you want me to?
Jen, it's fine.
Okay.
So I work part-time. Well, 15 hours a week is what I do, just kind of as something to keep the money rolling in, you know. But I definitely think that you do have to plan around school, work-wise. I would say it's not entirely impossible. That's just, those number of hours is just what I prefer for myself. But we have a lot of people in the program who do work long shifts, and they work a lot of hours during the week, and they definitely still make it work and are able to keep up on top of things. Definitely makes it more challenging just because you have your time spread out in different directions. But I mean, I definitely don't think that it's something that cannot be done.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess to touch on that too, I work for Boise State. Well, not anymore because of the closure, but when I was in school and worked on campus, I did work for Boise State. It's nice to have those jobs on campus if you are still looking for a job, just because you can easily bounce from school. I would work between classes or, you know, whenever it was available. But I do know we do have someone in the program who worked as a CNA. She was able to work weekends, especially because I feel in the first semester or 2 of the program, especially the first semester, you don't have clinical that whole first semester, so you're able to fit work in much easier just because you have class and then you're able to work. I think it definitely gets harder as you move throughout the program. Your second semester, you'll have clinical Tuesday and Thursday. And then that last year of the program, you'll have clinical Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which obviously makes it a little bit harder to work. But that being said, it's not something you can't do. It does leave your weekends open. It's hard because you're going to have to juggle schoolwork and studying for those tests and stuff, but it's definitely doable. It's just something that you'll have to evaluate when you get to that point, but definitely doable for sure.
And I think McKenna makes like a really good point, especially those of you that are incoming to Boise State, you're not currently enrolled. I think that's a really good time to apply on campus. I worked at the rec center for my second year of college, and like they do like an excellent job of working with you around your school schedule and things like that. I think I know there's multiple people in the program that work for the university, and it's not always you know, about the job, but it does give you a whole lot of extra people to talk to and be around and kind of create this community too. So I think that's also important when you're going through it. things in life, and but they do a really good job of working around school schedule, so something to consider.
That's cool. Do you both live on campus?
I do not. So I grew up in Idaho. My parents live in Idaho. I originally lived in what's called a health professions community my freshman year of college. I kind of wanted to get out and explore college a little bit, and this program allowed me to meet people who were like-minded and wanted to go into the healthcare field. So I lived in the dorms and lived with people who were in the program, and then I lived in an apartment, and I decided that was a lot of money, and my parents lived here, so I decided to move home and just make the commute downtown, which I live in Eagle, which it's a little bit of a commute, but it's really not bad. I like it. I think I'm saving money, so I can't complain. But.
Yeah, I'll be commuting from Caldwell.
Okay, yeah. So we do have quite a few people actually. So I know we have quite a few applicants from CWI, and a lot of them live in Nampa and the Caldwell area, and they all have families, and they don't seem to struggle too bad with commute. Plus, what's really nice is our clinical instructor, our professor in the program does a really good job that first semester of clinical to try and get you into clinic sites that are near you. And so a lot of them, we have sites in Ontario, Oregon, we have sites in like Caldwell and Nampa and stuff. And a lot of those people that live out in that area, he tried to get them into those sites so that they don't have to commute every day during the week. And so.
Well, she's in class. Why didn't you tell me she's in class?
Hi.
Jenna, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I don't live on campus, but I live near campus. I normally commute about 8 minutes in the morning, which makes it nice because I don't have to get up as early, but yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with living closer or farther away. It's just kind of a preference and what works best for you.
Jenna, were you I believe you were a Washington resident and moved to Idaho, correct? At one point in your early career?
Yes.
So what brought you to
I'm from
Boise
Spokane
State?
originally. So I was in the dorms my freshman year, and then lived in an apartment with the same girls that I got put into that dorm with freshman year, and then have moved to a house off of campus.
Yep.
So I had a question. What classes will I be required to take in the program?
Let me ask that or answer that. Basically, you'll start off with and some of the terminology might be unique. There's courses in radiographic exposure, which is technical factors. There's one involving clinical orientation. What I teach is an area of radiographic positioning, which is procedural in nature, and that goes on for 2 semesters. There's 2 labs that will be busy. There's a lot of work in that, both on the learning the equipment and how to best produce images safely, and then how to do the procedures itself. We're very heavy lab based, and that helps you acclimate into the clinical setting. What am I forgetting, ladies? My 2. What else you took in the first and second semester? Is it Cathy's class? Was contrast media, right?
I know second. Yeah, Cathy is second semester. I think you actually touched. Oh, we do take the nursing class. It's I believe 105 or something like that. But it's a lot of the CNA work that you've already done, Tammy. So it's a lot of learning patient care skills, doing those things. I think that lab is 3 hours. Incorrectly, but
Okay.
The first semester they make it really nice. It's a lot of learning the basics, and so it's nice because you start with learning those basics and then you build on them as you go through the program and into the next semester. You'll have John and Travis that first semester, at least we did. They're great professors. They'll help acclimate you to the program, and they understand everyone's human. And so obviously it's nice because your program is smaller. I think there's 28 or 29 of us. And because there's so few of us, we're all on a first name basis with our professors, and they want us to come into their office and ask for help and stuff. So it's definitely a very doable thing. And they set you up really well to continue to learn throughout the program, especially for when you're going to go out to clinical in the spring semester. So don't worry too much about the classes or what you're going to learn in those things, because they do a really great job teaching you. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
You guys have
Cathy,
been very helpful.
what specialty do you see yourself going into down the road? Have you looked that far down the road?
I missed the question. Say it again.
In terms of a subspecialty, once you graduate from the basic program, are you looking to move into ultrasound or CT or MRI, one of those other modalities?
I wanted to start out as an X-ray tech.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good, and that's what we all do. And anymore, the profession has evolved quickly. I think what McKenna and Jenna would tell you is that you can work in a clinical setting, you can work in a major medical center, you can do a variety of different specialties there, but oftentimes to make yourself even more valuable to yourself in terms of income as well as your clinical site, you want to get into areas like computed tomography, magnetic resonance, ultrasound. Mammography is an interesting area because there's such a big need, especially in Idaho, for women's health, and yet there's no program. So we're trying to expand that along with one called interventional radiology. So I know it seems premature, but you probably want to.
Yeah, I want to.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to eventually get into like ultrasounds.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
To
Please.
touch on that, John, don't feel too much pressure to obviously start thinking about modalities you could go into. I thought about ultrasound a lot, and I was like, I want to be a sonographer. I want to go to school for that. And once in the program, you learn so much about different areas and how to make yourself a well-rounded technologist. And I've definitely learned through clinical, working in bigger hospitals. My clinical site was St. Al's Nampa, and they like to have their textbook trained in CT and just like a normal X-ray tech. So it's something I'm considering just because I want to be a more well-rounded technologist when I go to apply to these hospitals and things. But no pressure on exactly knowing what you want to do. It changes. A lot of us are like, we want to do ultrasound when we first get into it. And they're like, wow, we've learned so much about all these different modalities. This is something I could see myself in. And so they do a great job teaching you about these modalities, and you get to actually shadow these modalities later on in the program. And so they'll set you up and they'll teach you about different things. John definitely has a well-rounded professional experience in all of these because we all tend to go to him for advice. And so they'll help you throughout the program. And especially if you decide ultrasound is for you, we do have a program that's a great program to go into. And so you can talk to Joey, who is that professor of that program. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. John, I do think we have another participant.
Okay, so would you add them in?
She is in already.
Okay.
Olivia, can you hear us? No.
Is she one of the organizers? Is it?
No, she is not a co-host.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just figuring out how to unmute, but yes, I can hear you guys.
Hi, Olivia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You have any questions about the diagnostic medical imaging program here at Boise State?
Yeah. So I am entering as a health science undeclared, just solely because the pre-radiology program doesn't accept the WUI or the GEM. So I talked to Austin Henderson. I don't know if you guys know him. He's an admissions counselor. He said that if I entering as a health sciences, I'll take most of the same classes. The only thing that I was worried about is I don't know if it would make it more difficult for me to enter into the program. So is there anything that I could do?
Well, go ahead. Can you guys speak to that? Because I'm really virtually a year into being at Boise State. I don't know. I don't want to misdirect you. But I would think that if you're taking that curriculum and it was advised to do so, that it would only help you rather than impede your application.
Yeah. So, and he said that it should be like most of the same classes.
Okay. Well, by the way, we have 2 honor students here. They're seniors, Jenna Berry and McKenna Green. And there's a young lady who's a graduate assistant by the name of Kathleen, who's also joining us. Ladies, did you ever hear about that program?
Yeah. So I'm actually, I don't know if you were here for this part, but I'm originally from Washington, and then I moved down here for school. So I totally know where you're coming from because I'm on the GEM scholarship. And I was going through the same thing when I entered Boise State, kind of just this whole process of trying to be a pre-radiology major, but not being able to hold on to my scholarship that is so rightfully earned. First of all, congratulations for that. That's a big accomplishment. And so I would say don't worry about it at all. I was a health science major until I got into the program. So you really just have to, once you have your advisor, and if Austin is your advisor that's going to work with you, then he'll know exactly how to direct you. But anybody who is an advisor in the health science field, just explain to them your situation when you finally get to meet with them, and they'll give you the whole spreadsheet of all the prereqs you have to take. Most of them are the same, but I would just say make sure that you mention that, just so that you are taking all the classes that you need before you apply. But you should have no problem at all. That's exactly the same situation that I went through. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah, of course.
Olivia, are you from Washington State?
No, I'm from Nevada.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So you're basically planning to apply next spring. Is that a correct statement on my part?
Well, I'll be attending. No, I'll be a freshman in the fall.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that both McKenna and Jenna would tell you that you want to work closely with your advisor. I have a list, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, of all the prerequisites. So make sure that you don't have a lot of redundancies or taking the wrong credits by working closely with your advisor. And also the program, which I'm one of the faculty there, we have 5 of us. And if you ever have questions, feel free to contact the Radiologic Sciences department, because we work with prospective students as well. We want to make sure that you take the right classes, you do as well as you can in them, and then also you streamline the application process. So hopefully you get admitted with your first application.
Cool. Okay. Another question I had, I think I read up on it. If I do get accepted into the program, is it a calendar year long?
It is. It's pretty much a calendar year long. You're going to get breaks during the course of the calendar year. So these 2 students right now are finishing their junior year. They're going to begin their senior year, and they're going to wrap up finals the first week in May. And then, ladies, make sure I don't say anything wrong. Then you're off until the first week in June. And then, well, unfortunately, because of COVID, they're not going to be able to begin the clinical, but they are going to take some additional classes. And then there's a break in August of this year for you guys. And then again, Christmas. Is that correct? Am I getting that?
So starting the 1st of June, so we get a month of summer, pretty much 3 weeks of summer. And then because of the COVID situation, we are going to take classes the first 5 weeks of the summer, and then the whole rest of the summer until the Friday before school starts, we will be in clinicals full time. But traditionally, for you that will hopefully not be under these circumstances when you're in the program, it would be that you take, so what John was explaining earlier is that there's 2 different tracks you can take in the program. So were you here for that part? So I don't re-explain.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so the first is kind of a traditional track where it takes things a little bit more slowly, and that's 2.5 years.
Yeah.
2.5 instead of just 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so then you would have more of a break during the calendar year because you would only be taking 5 weeks of clinicals full time during the 15-week break of summer, approximately.
Okay. Okay.
But with the fast track, as McKenna and I are, pretty much meaning that we completed more of the prerequisites before we applied to the program, so we can kind of condense all that material into a faster track through the program. then you squish both of the summers that you would have in a traditional track into the same summer. So we would have done 10 weeks of full time. So we would have about 3 weeks at the beginning of the summer and then 3 weeks right before we started the fall semester again. So it is for the most part the full calendar year, but you do get breaks, and we get 3 weeks for Christmas and a week for spring break and a week for Thanksgiving. So
Okay.
and I
Awesome.
think that you'll find probably with anything that you get into, but I think most of us at the beginning we were looking forward to those breaks, and then after we took them we found it was really hard for us to all be away from the program and away from the hospitals, and especially right now I think we're all kind of in need of that, what we want to get our hands on and back into learning. So it may seem like, oh my gosh, I have no time, to do anything. But then if you do get accepted into the program, you'll find that the program is just so awesome, and you connect with all these people in your class, as there's only 30 of us really with the professors that you're with. And so we all just really love being, although it's great to have breaks, we love being in there. So don't be worried about breaks or anything like that.
Cool.
Olivia, I have the prerequisites up on the screen, but again, you want to work with Austin on advising you for each semester. And the point I want to also, I'm going to go back a slide, is keep your grades up as high as you can. The cumulative minimum is a 2.5,
Okay.
but for prerequisite courses, you need to maintain a minimum of 2.6. I would venture to say that both Jenna and McKenna probably were cranking in somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5. Because it's a competitive program, keep your grades up as high as you can.
Yeah. What else would you suggest to kind of stand out, just because it is such a competitive program, other than getting really good grades and stuff? What other things would you recommend?
I can touch on that. I don't want to speak for Jenna. Definitely when you meet with your advisor, they tell you it's all about grades and those things, but it's also really important to make sure this is a field you want to go into. I got my CNA when I was in high school and decided nursing was okay, but it really wasn't for me. And so I enjoyed that experience, finding out that I definitely did not want to be a nursing student and didn't want to go through the nursing program. And so then I researched more into different areas of the healthcare field, because I know I wanted to go into the healthcare field. I just didn't know where. And I talked with a lot of people, and they said to shadow at the VA. The VA has, I don't know if there's other hospitals you can shadow in, but the VA actually allows students to be, or I guess volunteers to be in their radiology department, watching their techs take images, working with patients and those sorts of things. And so I asked to volunteer there, and I did about almost a year of volunteer work at the VA, and I loved it. They really opened my eyes into the field of radiology and the different things you can do, and explained everything to me. And so I was like, this is something I really want to be in, and I ended up applying to the program. So just making yourself stand apart, just shadowing if there's opportunities to work in the healthcare field. I know a lot of us in the program work as transports. So they work, at least getting some hospital experience working with patients. They transport patients.
Okay.
Just things to think about, just to set yourself apart. You do have to write a letter, and I feel like all the experience I had really helped to write that letter a lot easier, just because I had more to talk about. And I also was able to find references a lot more, because I was shadowing and able to ask those people for references. So you said you were also a freshman, correct?
Yeah, I'll be a freshman in the fall.
Okay. Do you know what you're doing for housing?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Kaiser, and I'm also in BroncoFit.
Okay, BroncoFit. So I was in the health professions community.
Okay.
BroncoFit and health professions work really closely together. They are obviously both kind of health related.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good thing to mention that when you apply to the program. I did a lot of, the program has a class that you take and the professor wants you to volunteer and have all this different experience for that class. So make sure you're talking about those things, connecting with they call them a FIR, it's like a faculty in residence that lives with you. Make sure you're building those relationships with that. I had my FIR write me a recommendation to the program. She was a professor in the public health side of things. And she also helped me interview. So for this program, you also have to do an interview after you apply. And so I spent a lot of time with her having mock interviews and trying to build my, I'm a pretty shy person, so trying to build my outgoing experience with her. Just making sure you're having those connections, getting out in your community, doing those things really set you apart. It is about grades, but it's also about who you are as a person and making sure that the healthcare field is something you're actually interested in. So just, you know, shadow, volunteer, do what you can.
Okay.
That's my advice. I don't know if Jenna has any other advice.
You pretty much touched on it all. I also was a volunteer when I was in high school for one of the hospitals where I'm originally from in Washington, just in their x-ray tech department. And that was just kind of me getting my feet wet to kind of see if that's what I wanted to do. And then when I moved down here to go to school, St. Luke's, which is the big hospital in downtown Boise, they did not have any volunteer positions in their x-ray tech program. But I ended up just volunteering there, can't speak, in a different department, just to kind of get into feeling like I wanted to be in the healthcare field every day, because I think more than anything, that's what it's about, is having not only radiologic skills, but also just having those professional skills in a clinical environment and in a bigger hospital environment. And then they have a lot of great resources at Boise State, like McKenna was talking about, with the interview. So once you get closer and get kind of your prereqs done, just things to consider. They do have phone numbers that you can call the techs at the hospitals, and you can set up a kind of like a walkthrough and a shadow of the different departments. So I know before I went into my interview process, I shadowed the two big hospitals in Boise, and I think that kind of helped me speak a lot to the questions that they were asking. And it also definitely helps with writing your paper and the whole interview process. So yeah, just as McKenna said, kind of doing whatever you can, even if it's not just an x-ray program or shadowing in that field, just kind of getting in kind of the setting of being in a hospital and working in that clinical environment.
Thanks, that was very
We have
helpful.
a few more minutes. Any last minute questions either for Tammy or Olivia about the program, prereqs, the profession itself? I think both McKenna and Jenna really address some really important areas, and they certainly have the firsthand experience. I could tell, I want you to know that, I know you're a freshman coming in, but, and I believe the ladies had mentioned this as well, is that it's a very small program, which makes it competitive, number one, but it also makes us very close. The students themselves are a very tight-knit group. There is a sense of camaraderie and support across the board like I've never seen anywhere, and I've taught for 40 years. Nothing that comes close to my experiences here at Boise State. And then the faculty work extremely well with our students. There is a connection that goes well beyond, you know, just a meet us in the classroom and lab and then we're done with you. It's really very much a mentoring relationship that we try to set up with our students. So you're always going to be connected, and you're always going to feel that there's a resource you can turn to. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, this was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.